They call the Colorado River the lifeblood of the American West. It begins high in the snowy Rockies of Colorado. The river flows across 7 states before reaching the Gulf of California. It stretches nearly 1,450 miles, making it the 5th longest river in the United States. About 40 million people rely on its water, the same as the entire population of Canada. Imagine a country the size of Canada depending on one river. But today, the Colorado is under threat like never before. Years of relentless drought and scorching summers have drained much of its flow. Lake Mead is dangerously low, exposing cracked mud and abandoned docks. Lake Powell has fallen to record lows, leaving canyons dry and desolate. Experts warn the consequences could be catastrophic. California may lose thousands of acres of farmland in the Imperial Valley. Phoenix could face severe cuts to water for millions of residents. Las Vegas might see parts of the city cut off from water entirely. The Colorado River is no longer just a resource. It is a fragile lifeline holding together cities, farms, and ecosystems. Could this iconic river survive, or is it fading for good? In this video, we will explore what could happen to each state along the Colorado River if its waters were to vanish. But before we start, here's a little question to entertain you. In which state does the Colorado River flow the longest? A. Arizona. B. Colorado. C. California. D. Texas. Share your opinion in the comments and patiently watch this video till the end to find out the truth. Colorado Rising. The Colorado River begins in the snowy peaks and glaciers of the Rocky Mountains. The state of Colorado, home to about 5.8 million people, is where this river first takes shape. Meltwater from the mountains feeds the streams that join into the Colorado. Without this annual snowmelt, the river itself would not exist. Colorado is not only the birthplace of the river, but also one of its earliest dependents. Cities across the state rely on the river's headwaters for survival. Denver, Colorado Springs, and Boulder use its flow to keep taps running for millions of residents. Smaller towns such as Grand Junction and Glenwood Springs depend on it for both drinking water and recreation. More than half of Colorado's population relies directly on water connected to the Colorado River system. When mountain snowpack is light, reservoirs fall quickly, and people feel the shortage almost immediately. Agriculture is another sector tied closely to the river. The western valleys of Colorado use irrigation canals to grow hay, corn, wheat, beans, and vegetables. Livestock ranchers depend on steady water supplies for both grazing and feed crops. Agriculture makes up only a small fraction of the state's economy compared to energy or technology, but in rural communities, it is a lifeline. Farms in Mesa, Delta, and Montrose counties could not exist without irrigation from the Colorado River. A single bad water year can erase entire harvests and push families off the land. Industry also depends on this water. Hydropower plants at Blue Mesa and Morrow Point reservoirs generate electricity for thousands of homes. Breweries, food processors, and mining operations all need large volumes of water to function. Tourism, one of the state's strongest economic engines, is also tied to the river. Fishing, rafting, kayaking, and mountain recreation bring in billions of dollars each year. If the Colorado River weakens, every one of these sectors feels the strain. Colorado does have other water sources, but none can replace the Colorado River. The South Platte River and the Arkansas River supply parts of the eastern plains, but these systems are already stretched thin. Groundwater aquifers exist, but many are shallow or slow to recharge. In some farming areas, wells already run dry after decades of heavy use. Reservoirs like Dillon, Horsetooth, and Blue Mesa provide short-term backup, but they cannot create new water when mountain streams run low. If the Colorado River were to decline further, the state would face a harsh reality. Denver could impose strict water rationing on households. Farmers in the valleys might abandon fertile fields, leaving entire regions empty. Hydropower stations would fall silent, removing an important source of electricity. Small mountain towns could lose their economies as fishing, rafting, and skiing disappear. In the worst case, parts of western Colorado could resemble ghost towns, abandoned when the water that sustained them vanished. How long have you lived in Colorado, and have you noticed changes in the river's water over the years? Share your opinion in the comments. Before we continue, make sure to like this video and subscribe to our channel. And now, let's dive in. Lake Havasu Boat Show. Every spring, Lake Havasu City in Arizona transforms into the beating heart of boating culture. The Lake Havasu Boat Show is the largest marine event on the Colorado River and one of the biggest in the entire Southwest. For 3 days, the shoreline is packed with over 140 exhibitors presenting everything from fishing boats and pontoons to luxury yachts and high-speed performance models. Visitors can climb on deck, explore cabins, and even test new models directly on the lake. The sight of hundreds of boats gleaming under the desert sun makes the event unlike anything else in the region. The show attracts more than 20,000 visitors each year, filling hotels, campgrounds, and rental homes to capacity. Restaurants line up with reservations, bars run at full pace, and local stores enjoy some of their highest sales of the year. Marinas gain new long-term clients, mechanics sign service contracts, and equipment retailers sell thousands of boating accessories. For Lake Havasu City, the boat show is not just entertainment, but a crucial economic engine. Many small businesses rely on this weekend for a significant share of their yearly revenue. The atmosphere is both festive and professional. Families stroll along the waterfront with food in hand, while children climb aboard brightly colored jet skis or fishing boats. The air is filled with music from live bands, the smell of grilled food, and the steady thrum of engines echoing across the water. For boat enthusiasts, the event is a chance to meet experts, swap stories, and see the newest technology in action. For newcomers, it is a taste of a lifestyle built around life on the river. Lake Havasu itself is a product of the Colorado River. It was created when Parker Dam was completed in the 1930s, turning the river into a massive reservoir. What was once a dry stretch of desert became a thriving hub of water recreation. The boat show is both a celebration of this transformation and a reminder of how deeply people depend on the river. Without the steady flow of the Colorado, there would be no lake, no marinas, and no place for the show to happen. The truth is simple. No river means no lake, and no lake means no boat show. The sight of polished yachts would be replaced by empty sand. The roar of engines would give way to silence, hotels and restaurants would lose their guests, and families would lose one of their favorite traditions. The festival that brings joy to thousands would vanish, along with the water that makes it possible. The Lake Havasu Boat Show is proof that the Colorado River is more than just a source of survival. It brings culture, recreation, and community to life. When people gather to celebrate boating, they are really celebrating the river itself. If the river fades, so too will this way of life. Would you travel to Lake Havasu to see this event? And do you think such traditions could survive if the river continues to shrink? Share your opinion in the comments. Our team needs your help. Subscribe to our channel to help more people learn the truth about current events. And now, we move on. Wyoming drying. Wyoming is the least populated state in the country, home to only about 580,000 people. Yet despite its small size, it plays a key role in the Colorado River Basin. The Green River, the largest tributary of the Colorado, flows through Wyoming before joining in Utah. This makes the state a crucial source of water, even if its own communities use only a fraction of the river compared to larger states. Most of Wyoming's people live in small towns and ranching communities. Agriculture here depends on irrigation, with hay and alfalfa fields stretching across valleys. Livestock operations, especially cattle, rely on steady water for grazing land and feed crops. Without access to rivers and reservoirs, many ranches would collapse in a single dry season. While Wyoming does not have massive cities like Phoenix or Los Angeles, its rural economy is tied just as tightly to the river's flow. Wyoming draws water from reservoirs such as Flaming Gorge, which also produces hydropower. These facilities supply electricity to thousands of homes and provide irrigation for farms. Yet the state must also meet its legal obligation to deliver water downstream as part of the Upper Basin Compact. Even if local communities conserve water, Wyoming cannot hold back its share without risking conflict with neighboring states. When flows are low, pressure builds not only on the land but also in courtrooms, as water rights are challenged and defended. Other sources of water exist in Wyoming, but they are limited. Some eastern regions draw from the North Platte River or rely on underground aquifers. These alternatives cannot fully replace the Colorado system, especially in the southwest where the Green River dominates. Aquifers recharge slowly, and wells are already showing signs of stress. In the long run, there is no real substitute if the Colorado system continues to shrink. If the river were to weaken further, Wyoming would face a chain reaction of consequences. Farmers would abandon fields as irrigation ditches ran dry. Ranchers might be forced to sell off herds due to lack of grazing water. Hydropower generation would falter, increasing dependence on outside energy. Small towns that rely on recreation, like fishing and rafting on the Green River, would lose tourism dollars. With fewer jobs and less opportunity, young people might leave, accelerating population decline in a state already struggling to hold residents. Wyoming's importance is not measured by how many people it supports, but by how much water it contributes. The state is a starting point for the river that sustains millions elsewhere. If Wyoming cannot maintain its flow, the effects ripple all the way to Arizona, Nevada, and California. That makes protecting water in this small state a matter of survival for the entire West. How do you think Wyoming can balance its small population with its huge responsibility as a water source for the entire Colorado Basin? Share your thoughts in the comments. Now please take a moment to hit that like button. It's a small action, but it helps YouTube's algorithm promote our videos to a wider audience. Lifeline River Run. Each spring, the quiet town of Laughlin, Nevada, transforms into the stage for one of the biggest motorcycle rallies in the West. The Laughlin River Run draws tens of thousands of bikers from across the country. For several days, the Colorado River becomes the backdrop to roaring engines, leather jackets, and neon lights. Riders cruise along the waterfront, filling the desert highways with chrome and thunder. Hotels and casinos on the riverbank burst with life, while vendors line the streets with food, gear, and custom bike parts. The event began in the early 1980s and has grown into a tradition that defines Laughlin's identity. At its peak, more than 60,000 riders and fans would descend on the town. The rally mixes concerts, poker runs, and custom bike shows with the unique setting of the Colorado River. Visitors ride during the day, then gather by the water at night for music, food, and the glow of casino lights reflecting on the river. For many, it is less about the motorcycles and more about the community created on the banks of the Colorado. The rally is also an economic powerhouse. Laughlin has fewer than 30,000 permanent residents, but during the river run, the town feels like a metropolis. Every hotel room sells out. Restaurants run full, and casinos see record activity. Local businesses stock up for months knowing this weekend can make or break their year. Vendors sell everything from biker gear to handmade crafts, while outdoor bars and live stages fill the air with constant energy. The entire economy of Laughlin revolves around the river, and the River Run is proof of how much life that water brings. But the event's very name reveals its dependence. Without the Colorado River, there would be no River Run. The rides along the waterfront would lose their magic. The glowing reflection of bikes and casinos on the river at night would be gone. Tourists might still come for the desert highways, but the unique culture of the rally would fade. The river gives Laughlin its character, turning a small desert town into a destination known across the West. The Colorado River makes this celebration possible. It provides the water that cools the casinos, fills the hotels, and supports the restaurants that serve the crowds. It gives riders a place to gather, relax, and celebrate after long hours on the road. Without the river, Laughlin would shrink back into just another small desert town, and the roar of engines would no longer echo against the water. The Laughlin River Run is more than a biker rally. It is a symbol of how culture, tourism, and tradition are all tied to the Colorado River. If the river disappears, so too does this celebration of freedom and community. Would you ever travel to Laughlin to experience the river run, and do you think the event could survive if the river dried up? Share your thoughts in the comments. Share this video on X and Facebook to help us grow. Every share counts. Utah fading. Utah is home to about 3.4 million people, and much of its story with the Colorado River revolves around water storage and tourism. The river carves some of the most iconic landscapes in the American West, from deep canyons to wide desert valleys. But the most dramatic feature in Utah's section is Lake Powell, created by Glen Canyon Dam in the 1960s. This massive reservoir became a symbol of human engineering and a playground for recreation. For decades, it has supplied hydropower, irrigation, and a booming tourism industry. Lake Powell draws millions of visitors each year. Houseboats, jet skis, and tour boats crowd the waters during summer. Surrounding towns like Page and Bullfrog thrive on the tourism economy built around the reservoir. Guides lead fishing trips, hotels run at full capacity, and marinas service hundreds of boats. The lake has become a cultural landmark, shaping the identity of southern Utah, but its existence depends on a river that is no longer flowing as it once did. Water levels in Powell have dropped to their lowest points since the reservoir was filled. Marinas have closed, boat ramps sit above the waterline, and the once bustling shoreline is shrinking. The Green River, the largest tributary of the Colorado, also cuts through Utah. It passes through Flaming Gorge and Dinosaur National Monument before joining the Colorado south of Moab. This river supports rafting, kayaking, and fishing tourism. It also provides water for farms and small towns scattered through eastern Utah. When flows weaken, these communities are among the first to feel the loss. Less water means fewer crops, less recreation, and smaller harvests. The Green River is a reminder that Utah's reliance on the Colorado system goes far beyond Lake Powell. Utah's farmers depend on irrigation to grow alfalfa, corn, and vegetables in the arid desert climate. Without steady water, many of these fields would not exist. Hydropower generated at Glen Canyon Dam has long been a reliable source of electricity, but reduced water flows threaten that output. Cities like Salt Lake City and St. George rely partly on other rivers, yet the Colorado system still provides a crucial safety net. If the river weakens further, that net will break, leaving communities exposed. The question is not just about tourism or farming, but about the future of entire regions. If Lake Powell continues to shrink, Utah could lose one of its major tourist magnets. Marinas may never reopen, and thousands of jobs could vanish. Farmers may abandon land as irrigation canals run dry. Hydropower shortages could raise electricity prices across the state. In the worst scenario, towns built around the river's bounty could decline into obscurity. Are you from Utah, and did you know about the water problems facing your region? Share your opinion in the comments. Parker Tube Float. Every summer, thousands of people gather on the banks of the Colorado River near Parker, Arizona, for one of the most unusual festivals in the Southwest. The Parker Tube Float is not about speedboats, races, or casinos. It is about drifting down the river together on inflatable tubes, rafts, and homemade floating contraptions. Bright colors cover the water as groups of friends tie their floats together and let the current carry them for miles. Music blares from portable speakers, coolers filled with drinks float alongside, and laughter echoes across the desert. The tradition began in 1977 with only a handful of locals looking for a fun way to cool off in the summer heat. Over the years, it has grown into a massive annual event that now draws thousands of participants. Families, college students, and tourists from across Arizona, California, and Nevada come to join the float. The river becomes a moving carnival where strangers quickly become friends as they drift side by side. Many participants decorate their floats with flags, lights, or costumes, turning the event into a giant parade on water. For many, the tube float is the highlight of the year, a simple celebration of sunshine, music, and the river itself. The impact on Parker is enormous. Hotels and campgrounds fill up weeks in advance, and restaurants stay busy all weekend. Local shops sell out of tubes, sunscreen, and river gear. Volunteers and safety teams patrol the banks, keeping watch over the crowds. The town of Parker depends on the event not only for revenue, but also for its identity. The tube float is part of its culture, a symbol of how life in the desert is built around the river. But the event also highlights the fragility of that life. Without a flowing Colorado River, there would be nothing to float on. The current that carries thousands of people downstream each summer could vanish. The wide blue ribbon of water would shrink into stagnant pools or dry sandbars. The laughter and music would disappear, leaving behind only silence and empty banks. Parker's biggest celebration would vanish overnight, along with the visitors and the money that sustain the town. The Parker Tube Float proves that the Colorado River is more than a source of drinking water or irrigation. It is a source of joy, tradition, and connection. The river creates community in ways that cannot be replaced by wells or pipelines. People do not come just for the float itself, but for the sense of freedom it represents. If the river disappears, so does this unique celebration of summer spirit. Would you join the Parker Tube Float if you had the chance? And do you think such traditions can survive if the Colorado River keeps shrinking? Share your answer in the comments. New Mexico forgotten. New Mexico is often left out of discussions about the Colorado River, yet it is one of the 7 states in the basin. The state is home to about 2.1 million people, and while only a small corner of New Mexico touches the Colorado system, its role is bigger than many realize. The San Juan River, a major tributary of the Colorado, flows through northwestern New Mexico. This river supplies water for farms, towns, and Native American reservations before joining the Colorado in Utah. For communities in this part of the state, the San Juan is a lifeline. Irrigation ditches carry its water across dusty fields, allowing farmers to grow corn, alfalfa, and vegetables. Ranchers depend on it for livestock, while towns like Farmington rely on it for drinking water and recreation. Without the Colorado system, this region of New Mexico would struggle to survive. Agriculture here already faces limits, and any reduction in water would force farmers to abandon their land. Native American reservations are especially dependent on this water. The Navajo Nation, which spans across New Mexico, Arizona, and Utah, has long fought for secure access to the river. In many communities, running water is not guaranteed even today. Households often rely on hauled water delivered by trucks. The San Juan River offers hope for stronger rights and infrastructure, but its shrinking flow threatens that future. If the river weakens further, the most vulnerable communities will suffer first. New Mexico does have other rivers, such as the Rio Grande and the Pecos, but they cannot replace the Colorado. The Rio Grande is already overused and often runs dry near Albuquerque. The Pecos is even smaller and less reliable. Groundwater is limited, and many aquifers are slow to refill. That leaves the Colorado system as the most dependable source of water in the northwest part of the state. Without it, entire regions could see wells run dry and towns fade away. The economic impact would be serious. Farmington, Gallup, and nearby towns depend on the San Juan not only for agriculture, but also for energy production. Power plants need water for cooling, and recreation businesses rely on fishing and rafting. When the river drops, fishing guides lose clients, marinas sit idle, and jobs disappear. New Mexico may not draw as much water as California or Arizona, but the water it does receive sustains thousands of livelihoods. If the Colorado system continues to decline, New Mexico could face a harsh future. Farms may close, Reservations may fall deeper into crisis, and rural towns could shrink as people move away. The San Juan River, once a symbol of survival in the desert, could become a memory. While larger states argue over millions of acre-feet, New Mexico risks being forgotten in the fight, even though its people depend on the same river. How do you think New Mexico can protect its water rights and secure a future for the towns and reservations that depend on the San Juan River? Share your thoughts in the comments. Arizona thirsty. Arizona is home to more than 7 million people, making it one of the fastest growing states in the West. The Colorado River is the backbone of its water supply, and here the river flows for the longest stretch within any state. From the border with Utah, through the Grand Canyon, and down to the line with California, the Colorado carves its way across Arizona. Along this journey, it sustains both natural wonders and human settlements. The sight of the river running through the Grand Canyon is iconic, but the water it carries is far more than a view. It is the lifeblood of the desert. Much of Arizona's water is delivered through the Central Arizona Project, a massive system of canals stretching more than 300 miles. These canals carry the river's water into Phoenix, Tucson, and countless smaller communities. Without this system, Arizona's largest cities could not exist in their current form. Phoenix, with nearly 5 million residents in its metro area, relies heavily on these deliveries. Tucson, surrounded by desert, depends on them as well. When the river weakens, both cities face shortages that threaten daily life. Agriculture is another major consumer. Fields of cotton, alfalfa, lettuce, and citrus rely on irrigation drawn from the river. The Yuma region is one of the country's leading suppliers of winter vegetables, feeding millions of Americans. But these fields cannot survive without Colorado River water. In dry years, irrigation is cut back, leaving farmers to make impossible choices about which crops to save. Entire harvests can be lost, pushing costs higher for consumers nationwide. Arizona's dependence goes beyond farming and cities. Hydropower generated at Hoover Dam and Glen Canyon Dam supplies electricity across the state. Recreation thrives along the river, from fishing and rafting in the Grand Canyon to boating near Lake Havasu. Towns built around the river attract millions of tourists each year. Without the steady flow of water, this network of jobs and businesses would collapse. The Colorado River does not just support life in Arizona. It fuels its economy and identity. The threats are already visible. As water levels drop, the land itself begins to change. Farmers report wide cracks splitting across their fields as the soil dries and collapses. In some areas, the ground sinks, a process known as subsidence, caused by overpumping aquifers to replace lost river water. These cracks cut through roads and farmland, making the impact of shortages impossible to ignore. What once looked like fertile valleys now shows the scars of a river in retreat. Reservoirs continue to fall to record lows, exposing dry banks and stranding boat ramps. Farmers face mandatory cutbacks as water allocations shrink. Cities prepare for restrictions on household use. The possibility of the river drying further raises an alarming question. How long can Arizona keep growing in the desert without the Colorado to support it? Are you from Arizona, and do you believe the state can continue to grow if the Colorado River keeps shrinking? Share your opinion in the comments. Nevada water gambling. Nevada is famous for bright lights, casinos, and desert landscapes, but behind the glamour lies a fragile reality. The state has just over 3.2 million residents, and nearly 3/4 of them live in Las Vegas. For this city, survival depends almost entirely on the Colorado River. Lake Mead, the largest reservoir in the United States, supplies about 90% of the water for Las Vegas. Every fountain, swimming pool, and hotel tower in the city is sustained by a river that begins hundreds of miles away. The Strip, with its dazzling lights and massive resorts, is built on a delicate balance. Water flows into the city through pipes that stretch deep into Lake Mead. As the lake drops, new intake tunnels have been drilled lower and lower to keep water flowing. Without these emergency projects, parts of Las Vegas would already be dry. Few other places in the world combine such intense growth with such limited resources. The city may feel like it runs on entertainment, but in truth, it runs on the Colorado River. The threats are visible everywhere. Lake Mead has fallen to levels once thought impossible, exposing bathtub rings of white rock around its edges. Boat ramps that once reached the water now sit stranded far above it. As the shoreline retreats, marinas close, and recreation declines. The shrinking lake is not just an environmental crisis, but a warning for the millions of people who depend on it. Without reliable inflow from the Colorado, Las Vegas has no real backup supply. The state has tried to respond with aggressive conservation. Grass lawns have been banned in many areas, replaced with desert landscaping. Hotels recycle nearly every gallon of water used indoors. Residents face restrictions on irrigation, and fines are issued for waste. These efforts have made Las Vegas one of the most water-efficient cities in the West. Yet efficiency cannot create water out of nothing. If Lake Mead continues to drop, even the strictest conservation will not be enough. Agriculture also plays a smaller but important role in Nevada. Farms near the river rely on irrigation for alfalfa and cattle feed. When the river weakens, farmers are among the first to lose access. For rural communities, this means fewer jobs and shrinking local economies. The contrast between the glittering strip and struggling farms highlights how deeply the river shapes life in Nevada. Are you from Nevada? And do you believe Las Vegas can survive if Lake Mead continues to fall? Share your thoughts in the comments. Now it's time to find out the correct answer to the quiz. In which state does the Colorado River flow the longest? A. Arizona. B. Colorado. C. California. D. Texas. The correct answer is A. Arizona. California draining. California is the largest state in the Colorado River Basin, with nearly 39 million people. It also receives the biggest share of the river's water. Much of that supply flows into the Imperial Valley, a desert transformed into one of the most productive farming regions in the world. Canals carry Colorado water across miles of fields, growing lettuce, alfalfa, and citrus that feed millions of Americans. Without the river, these green acres would return to barren desert. The scale of dependence is immense. Agriculture in Southern California consumes more than 3 million acre-feet of Colorado River water each year. The Imperial Irrigation District alone uses more than some entire states. This supports thousands of farms and tens of thousands of jobs. Grocery stores across the country rely on this supply chain. Without it, food costs would soar and farmers would face ruin. The sight of green fields stretching across a blazing desert is a miracle made possible only by the river. Cities also rely heavily on the Colorado. Los Angeles and San Diego receive deliveries through the Colorado River Aqueduct, supplying millions of residents with water that began as snow in the Rockies. Northern California has its own rivers, but they cannot replace the flow that sustains the South. For the most populated part of the state, the Colorado River is the final safety net. The threats are already clear. Lake Mead continues to drop, and California faces pressure to reduce its use. Farmers cut irrigation, leaving fields empty as dust storms roll across the Imperial Valley. Small towns built around agriculture lose jobs and population. For these communities, less water means not just fewer crops, but the erosion of their way of life. Politics make the challenge even sharper. California's disputes with Arizona and Nevada grow louder as supplies shrink. Should water go first to farms that feed the nation or to households in sprawling cities? Every choice carries consequences. The river is now as much a legal battlefield as a natural one. If the Colorado weakens further, the consequences would be devastating. Millions of acres of farmland could vanish. Cities in the South would face strict rationing. Food shortages would ripple nationwide. The image of California as a land of abundance would be replaced with scarcity. California is investing in conservation, recycling, and drip irrigation, but these measures can only delay the crisis. The state consumes more Colorado River water than any other, and if the river fails, no plan will fully prevent disruption. Are you from California, and do you believe the state can keep feeding the nation if the Colorado River continues to shrink? Share your thoughts in the comments. Thank you for exploring the hidden corners of the USA with us. Click on the video you see on the screen to check out other hidden discoveries on our channel.